model of funding universities, which is based on 3 areas. Number 1, you say you want to give them scholarship. Number 2, you want to give them loans. Number 3, you want the families to be able to contribute a certain percentage. And then you further confuse it and you say, let us now discriminate the poor. You know, because in this country, we do not have a proper system of identifying who is poor and who is rich. Then you say, let's create several bands. You say, band 1. The government will provide 70% scholarships to the extremely needy students. Then you go and say 25%, 25% will be given to that needy student as a loan. And then that needy student, who can barely even buy a pair of shoes, he is told, contribute 5%. Then you go down further, you actually, what you're doing, you know, whoever came up with this is the most confused human being on earth. Whoever, you know, what you're doing is that you are creating, you know, classes of individuals. Yes. You know, system of classes. You are classifying people. Even in school, they'll just be told, oh, what percentage of scholarship is this government giving you? 70%. Oh, so you're the poorest of the poorest. You know, those, you know, we have to go to say no to such kind of thinking. You know, everybody keep on talking about Africa being the future. Africa being the future. How can Africa be the future and Kenya is part of Africa, yet you're discriminating on the education policy that you're introducing for its citizenry? My colleague has just said the people who make it to the university are normally people who come from really humble and poor backgrounds. You know, now you are now creating a system, a class system, which will be influenced by those decision makers. I want to plead that we go back to the capitation system, whereby we allocate money to universities based on the number of students that they enroll. Absolutely. That's number 1. Number 2, I think it's about time that we really delve deeper into the system of devolution that we have in this country. There was a county, I think it was Mandera, or Garissa, one of those 2 counties in the northeast, that the governor came in and said, every student who goes to the university, we will pay 100% of their tuition. 100%. Let me tell you, my county of Narok, we are one of the richest counties in Kenya. You know, actually, I would dare say in Eastern Central Africa. You know, we collect, just in the month of July, the current estimates collection was 1 billion and I think 300,000. 1.0300, just 1 month in terms of revenue collection. If for proper governance and accountability, and also to be able to ensure that we support, you know, young people, you know, why not say each county allocate X number of money for your students? That's number 1. Number 2, also, we need to now to start asking ourselves whether this issue of where the Ministry of Education controls everything. You've just clearly indicated here that they carry about 27% of all the revenue collection in this country, you know, as their budget. Right. Can we now start saying, can we relook at this issue of devolution and ask ourselves, how much can we devolve, you know, education? How much can we devolve education? We can have policies. There are other jurisdictions, like in the United States, you know, there are school districts. You know, they're funded by, like, you know, I lived in Massachusetts, and there's a school district from, let's say, I lived in a town called Concord. You know, when you go to Concord and Carlisle, school district, people are funded that way. And then, ultimately, people are supported to go to the universities. If you go to universities, most universities in the world are well endowed. What makes it difficult for universities to become well endowed? If you look at the University of Nairobi, for instance, and you look at the most prime real estate in this country, it is owned by the University of Nairobi. What is that endowment? How do you manage that? So it all comes down to the issue of accountability, issue of transparency, and issue of inclusivity. So this model that has been introduced, to me, is self-defeating. To me, it will discriminate more. I don't want to keep on hearing this issue of Harambes. It's like we are all confused. We don't know what we're talking about. You know, the government comes out and say, no more Harambe. Mheshimiwa, don't go to Harambe. Don't go to Harambe. Yes. Anybody goes to Harambe will see. Then you are now telling people, oh, let's go for family, 5%. Mheshimiwa here is saying, we go to a church and we can raise money to pay for the need. you know, do we really know what we're talking about?
I like what you're saying, that financing also, counties can sit down and agree on how to support. But I'm just wondering, where would that sit in the separation of functions?
Oh, no, it's very simple. Article 187 of the Constitution calls for, sharing of functions, where if the county government can easily perform a particular function, it can have an agreement with the national government. And in fact, we keep on pushing for empowering of the Intergovernmental Relations Committee, now which we are amending the Act to call it Intergovernmental Relations Agency. If we do it properly, we will not have the confusion we had in AMS. What's it called? The one for Nairobi? NMS.
Yes.
Because right now the confusion we're having in NMS, I get people who call me on a daily basis. On a daily basis. You know, there's a young girl, I'm trying to remember her name. She calls me, she's telling me she's almost losing her mind because she did some services for Nairobi County, and now she's told, your invoices are stuck in State House with NMS. And that is solely because we ignored the role of the Intergovernmental Relations Committee. So governments, the law provides for a way where if one function is better performed by another level of government, that function is transferred. Okay. The second function, actually, which should actually be transferred, has to do with the issue of housing. You know, why should we concentrate every decision to the national government? You know, counties can be able to build houses. We have counties like Narok, which we have vast lands. We have kids who come from Loita. We have kids who come from Narosra, come from Emurwetikir. Why do we have to give money so that they can come into an urban center? You know, come on. All these things really require proper thinking, and education is very, very key. Education is very, very key. You know, finally, just quickly, you are talking about having the community support these students. But when you look at even TVETs, even universities that you set up in certain areas, you know, that community that lives there do not feel as if they are part of that university, you know, because everything is controlled from the Ministry of Education in Nairobi. So all the decisions are coming up from Nairobi. The council of that university is determined from Nairobi. So that community there does not feel like this is our baby. They just feel like this is something that has been brought here. It is controlled by everyone. We have problems even in Narok. I'll give you a very practical example. You know, there is a TVET, which is about 1 kilometer from where I live. You know, we gave the land, our own land. We gave that land for it to be built, but we have no control over it.